Hello students, welcome to Biology 130. I'm really excited to have you in my class. I'm really excited to meet you. I hate the first day, boring stuff, doing it on the first day, so we're going to jump right into content. So I'm glad you've taken the time to watch this video. I hate to see my face while I record, so I thought I would just say hi and then I'm going to turn off my face and go through the ins and outs of the course. So let's go. Let's jump right in. I just want to make a quick note. The dates on the screen that you may see here in this video may actually differ from the actual date, so please follow Canvas. I retape certain portions of this video each year, and sometimes I don't retape a portion and it's got dates from a prior semester. So just ignore the dates you see in the video, follow the ones on Canvas. All right, so let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Jensen. I will respond to Professor Jensen, Dr. J, Dr. Jensen, I'm pretty easy. I am a discipline-based education researcher, or a DBER, dweeber, we call ourselves. And so I am a classically trained biologist, but I study the way that students learn biology, and my specialty is in science communication. I actually spend a lot of time working on evolution specifically, and its reconciliation with religious orientations. And so we've run workshops, a lot of workshops, and had participants and collaborators from all over the world. Israel is in that one of the pictures sitting in the museum. Qatar is another one that I've done in the Middle East. I also work on the broader social impacts committee of the Smithsonian, the Natural History Museum. It's a group of people that we get together. We are religious people, but also biologists, and we talk about how to help the public understand evolution a little bit better, and I'm the Latter-day Saint on the team. I also have spent time in South Africa dealing directly with human evolution research, so that's kind of what I do for fun, but mainly I'm a mom. I have 4 boys. You can see them there in the picture, and I'm a wife, got a great husband, and so that takes up a lot of my time as well. Okay, so tools for your success. The first tool for your success are your teaching assistants, or your TAs. And so you've got quite a group here that's working specifically to help you succeed. There are 3 lecture TAs, Isaiah, Jens, and Robert, and you'll get to know them in class on the first day. And then each of you will have a lab TA depending on the section you're in. So you can see them here: Kyle, Scott, Anna, Olivia, and Lillian. I have handpicked these individuals because they are spectacular and awesome and wonderful and caring, and they are your keys to success in this class. So please make sure you utilize TAs. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to kind of demonstrate some things to you about learning that I think are really important. So if you have a minute, if you have a small mirror or a compact or something that's a mirror, what I'd like you to do is actually pause and try to do this just on a piece of paper. So while looking in the mirror, try to trace these shapes and then try to write your name so that it'll appear correctly in the mirror. So not when you look at it on the paper, but it looks correct in the mirror. So I really would encourage you to stop for a minute and try this. I'm going to pause. You should pause. Okay, so hopefully you paused and you did that, and probably what you found is that it was extremely difficult. You probably felt like yelling at your hand, like, what the heck? Why are you not doing what I want you to do? And there's a lot of reasons for this. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I've got muscle memory to write, which is true. You've been writing this way since you learned to write, and doing it in a mirror makes things not go the way that you expect them to go. And it's something you'd have to relearn. And so I always ask students, do you think it would be easier if I had first given you this PowerPoint slide and told you that vertical positions are opposite, so you're going to move differently, but horizontal positions are consistent with non-mirror writing, so you'll move right and left as normal. So to write your name in the mirror, you're going to have to write it upside down, do the vertical reversal, but each letter is going to be in the same order, left to right. So do you think that would have helped you do it better the first time? If you're wondering, you could pause the video again here, now that you've seen this slide, and see if you can do it better. And I would venture to guess that you can't, that you're still going to mess up lots of times. Why? Is it because PowerPoint is completely ineffective? Well, no, not necessarily. But there's a reason that just telling you, like this, doesn't actually correct some of the conceptions that your brain has already formed. And that's because of this little idea called equilibration theory. And I'm not going to test you on this. Don't write this down unless you think it's cool and you want to share it. But learning is a dynamic and individualized process. Okay, so it happens inside your head. I can't do it for you. And there's two ways of learning. There's assimilation. So this is simply just incorporating new information into what's already there. So when you first learned to write, that was assimilation. And then there's accommodation. Accommodation is when you have to modify something that's already there in your brain. And it's a lot harder. It requires cognitive conflict, which is uncomfortable, right? To see that, oh, my hand's not going in the direction that I thought I wanted it to go. And so you have to modify what's already there. And so how does that relate to biology? Well, how many of you think you have preconceptions about biology? How many of you have been outside, for instance? You have lots of ideas about how the world works that are, some of them are primitive ideas about how the world works, and we're going to try to change those ideas. But I can't just PowerPoint to you and hope that it just soaks in and accommodates. And so that's why the class is built the way it is. And I'll get into more detail about how we do that in just a minute. But I wanted to share one more thing. This is my son who is on a mission. So this was taped a long time ago. And let me explain. It was morning time. You can see he's kind of in his pajamas with a blanket on. And we'd just done scripture study. This is how scripture study goes in my home. Everyone's half asleep. But we had just read the story about the Good Samaritan in the New Testament. And I asked my oldest to repeat the story in his own words. And I want you to listen to his rendition of this story.
And all three guys wouldn't help him, and when one came, he took the man and put him in his truck and started driving away. And then he woke up in a bed. He was nice and warm, and he had a couple bruises and cuts, and he felt really bad, but he was glad that the man helped him.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so did you notice the truck? Did you notice the truck that the Good Samaritan got into and drove to the inn? Why was there a truck in that story? Why did my son put a truck in that story? Well, it turns out that our minds are really good at filling in gaps in our understanding, and they do it so fluidly and easily, you almost don't even notice it. And what do they fill it in with? Well, sometimes garbage, right? So if you're learning something and you missed a detail, your mind, in its effort to be helpful, will fill in that hole. It's probably evolutionary, right? We didn't want to die, so we just filled in the holes, right? It'll fill in the holes with junk. So why do I tell you this? Well, it's really important to study out loud. I'm not even joking. It can even be to a wall. But if you have to explain something out loud, you're much more likely to catch those gaps than if you just review things in your head. So that's another important study tool for you. I also have a couple of videos online that you can watch, one on how to study and a study strategies module that's really helpful. So here's a third tool for your success. All right, so let's talk about this class and how I teach it. We use a 5E learning cycle, right? In education, we love alliteration. So we've got engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. So engage is where we get you excited about the material. Explore is where you build your own understanding, like we did with the mirrors. And so the reason I tell you this is that it means that you're going to go to lab first. And you're going to see material for the first time in lab. And it's going to be novel, and the TAs are not going to explain things to you. They're going to have you explore. And I've noticed with students that sometimes it's a little uncomfortable at first, as you're like, oh my gosh, just tell me the answer. But they're doing that on purpose because you need to build your understanding. Otherwise, we don't change. We don't prompt accommodation in your brain. And then we'll do some explaining where we introduce terms, clarify content, and then we elaborate. So research has shown that if you only learn a certain piece of information or concept in one context, it tends to stay contextually specified, meaning that it only works in the context in which you learned it. And so we do a lot of elaboration where we apply it to novel situations, and we'll do that in several places that I'll show you, and then evaluate. So we obviously need to evaluate you. So let me tell you how this looks. So first is lab. So in lab, you'll go to lab, you'll attend the lab in 2021 of the Life Sciences building here. That is where you will engage and explore. So lots of fun activities, lots of hands-on stuff. That's all engage, explore, and explain. So the TAs will do a lot of explaining. You'll actually follow along on the lab procedures in the lab book, which is now digital on Top Hat and Monocle. So you will have purchased that either from the bookstore, they have purchase links, or you can just go ahead and purchase it on your own. If you go to Booklist, it explains how. And so you're going to go to Top Hat and you're going to purchase access, and then you will follow the procedures and it'll walk you through the lab on there. And then after lab, and a lot of times you have time in lab to do this, you will attempt the homework assignment. So the homework assignment gets a little bit into elaborate, a little more exploring and explaining. You're going to do the homework assignment. If you get to the bottom of the homework assignment with answers of any kind, you're just trying to figure it out, you get 5 points automatically, and you need to do that before you come to lecture on Wednesday. So you guys have labs on Mondays and Tuesdays. Before you get to lecture on Wednesday, you need to have attempted the lab homework or you won't get those 5 points. Then we go to lecture. So again, it happens Wednesday, Friday, Monday, which is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But because you do labs first, we do Wednesday, Friday, Monday, where we're going to further explain what you learned about in lab. We're going to elaborate upon it. We're going to extend it and expand it to other material that's related. And we'll do a lot of, not lecture stuff. I mean, sometimes it's lecture, but a lot of interaction and digesting what we learned in lab. Okay. And that lecture happens in 2102. Wednesday, Friday, Monday. And then before the next lab, you're going to go back to that homework now that things have been explained a little better, and you're going to do it for points. You're going to complete it for accuracy, and then you'll get that additional 10 points. So each homework assignment is worth 15 points. You need to attempt it first, come to lecture, and then complete it before the next lab. And then we have lab quizzes and unit exams or evaluate. So every lab, after the first one, every lab, when you come in, the first 15 minutes of lab, you will take a quiz. It's on Top Hat. So you're going to go there. It's timed, 15 minutes. It's over the previous contents in the previous lab, contents from the previous lab. And then unit exams are administered in the University Testing Center throughout the semester. I'll show you where to find those dates. Okay. So there's additional lecture assignments, just a few of them. They are all on Canvas, so I've just screenshotted Canvas. I'll show you where these are in just a minute, but we're going to take some pre-surveys. Let me talk about that for just a second. I would like you to take the LCTSR. It stands for the Lawson's Classroom Test of Scientific Reasoning. You can think of it as kind of like a science IQ test. The reason we have you take this is that it is one of the biggest and most influential predictors of your success in this class. And it may seem funny when you take it that this is in any way related, but it's testing your scientific reasoning abilities. These are not like IQ in that they're not an inborn thing. They're something that you learn and develop over time. But some of you may not have had much experience with science before, and you may be a little rusty or never developed some of these skills. And so if you take the pre-LCTSR and you score less than, I would say less than a 20, you should consider going to this BEST app that I've got listed here. This is a free Canvas course that my students and I designed to help increase your scientific reasoning skills. And it's freely accessible, and you can take as long as you want on it, and then you can take the LCTSR again and see if you improve. If you want more information about that, there is this document here that says why take the LCTSR that you can read. You'll do a poster, you'll do a genetics packet, an evolution special project, and an evolution ecology homework packet. We'll talk about them more in class as they start coming up. You are also going to be reading Your Inner Fish for this class, so you need to purchase this book. It is a great book. It's an easy read. It's meant for the lay person, and we're going to be doing a lot with it, including the very first lab, that's the library lab, will be focused on the project you're going to do for Your Inner Fish. Again, I just took a screenshot of Canvas here, so this is where you're going to submit everything, and we'll talk about it more in class as these things come up. Other highlights from the syllabus, there are required supplies, so the textbook is inclusive access, meaning that when you signed up for this class, you automatically got enrolled in the textbook and your student account was charged. I strongly recommend you keep the textbook, although you can opt out. But it comes with access to Mastering Biology, which is an awesome tool for success that I'll show you in a minute. And then you are required to purchase access to the digital lab manual from Top Hat. Point breakdowns, we've got 3 unit exams that are multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, essay. You take them in the testing center. I believe in a growth mindset. So the first one is only worth 50 points as you get used to the class. The second exam is worth 100 points and the third 150. So that you don't, mess up on the first exam a little bit because you didn't really know what you were doing and then get overly penalized. And then the final exam is worth 200 points. It is comprehensive and it is in the testing center during finals week. So we use Canvas rather than Learning Suite. Learning Suite will direct you to Canvas, but if you want the site, it's byu.instructure.com. I'd love for you to visit the syllabus and read through it and make sure you don't have any questions. Visit the homepage. I'm going to show you these things in there. Download the schedule. Let's actually go. One other thing, I have a discussion board on there. I'll show you where it is, where if you're looking for a study buddy, someone to study with, you can post your information there and your availability, and hopefully we can get you guys together in study groups so that you can study out loud and not have to talk to the wall. Okay, so let's look at our typical student scores. Just to give you an idea, these are A students, and you can look at their exam scores. So not all of them aced the exams, but what's common about them is that they did almost everything correctly in lab. And so that's really important. The lab is a huge component of the course. Typical grade distribution, just in case you're wondering, I believe that everybody can succeed and meet our learning outcomes, and if you do, you get the grade you deserve. We don't need necessarily a bell curve in this class. All right, so let's go over to Canvas and look some more at the course. At our Canvas course, so I typed in byu.instructure.com and I logged in using my net ID and password. I'm in student view, that's why this little pink banner's on the bottom. And so here's what you can see in this course. Course information. If you click on that one, you'll see instructor information. That'll give you my information, when my office hours are, how to contact me. TA's office and bios and office hours. This will describe your TAs, how to contact them. They'll go through all the lab procedures when they meet with you for the first time, but their information is there. This is the schedule, just an overall schedule of what we're going to cover and when things are due. So I would strongly recommend you download this and that you take a look at it and get it on your calendar. This tab here is class notes. So if you were to miss class, my lecture TAs take pictures of the board and they post them here. So you can see what we talked about, but you can also see it on the schedule. I do not do electronic copies of the course. I don't record, for instance, but you're welcome to record when you're in class, but I don't record or do Zoom. So you do need to be here in person. Important dates. You're welcome. Here are the most important dates that you should get on your calendar and get them on there now. Okay, so I've kind of listed those for you just to make it easy on you. Tools for success. This is a very important module. This one here is our learning outcomes. This will tell you everything you have to be able to do by the end of every class and every lab in the class. This is how I write my exams. This is your best friend. This should be downloaded. I don't want to ever hear you say, what are the learning outcomes? What learning outcomes? What are you talking about? Where are the learning outcomes? They are right here. This is your study guide. This is everything you need to know. Those are the 2 study strategies videos I talked about in the earlier in this video. This here is something new I'm trying this year. It is a knowledge construction guide. So it is basically a scaffold for taking notes in lecture. So it's everything we're going to do, things you're going to write down. I've made like a note guide for you. I'm trying to really be high structure in this class to help you have all the tools you need for success. So I strongly recommend that you download this and have it with you. So those are tools for success. Lecture assignments, so that was that screenshot I showed you. You need to take this pre-survey by the 12th of September. You will get credit for it. You won't, it's not worth 24 points. Excuse me. I will edit that. It's just worth participation points, but right now it's set at 24. We'll change everybody's score. Excuse me, I need a drink. Just one second. And so these are those lecture assignments. This is where you'll find the rubrics, the directions, how to turn them in, etc. Right, so that's the lecture assignments. Your inner fish, this is everything you need to be able to submit your inner fish, and we'll talk about that more as things come up and get closer, but you should start reading the book right away. This, I've just put in here like a little mini practice exam so you can see what the exams look like. So you can kind of prepare yourself for the format. And then there's a key so you can test yourself. And it's over Unit 1 material, so it should be pretty easy to look at. Final exam is in the testing center. There's also a final survey that'll pop up there. Okay, mastering biology. And ignore this library of links for now. We'll reference that with your first lab. Your TA will talk about it. Mastering Biology is this fantastic resource that we have given you. We've made a deal with the textbook company for this inclusive access. They've drastically reduced the price of the book and included Mastering Bio by doing this. And so let me show you some of those links. And I've actually already pulled them up so that I don't have to pull them up from here. But several things you want to look at. First is Course Home. So if you were to click on that, it's going to bring up something that looks sort of like this, and you probably have to click on a thing that says All Assignments. So I've gone through Mastering Biology, and for lots of the topics, I have created these like interactive activities. So like atomic structure or chemical bonding or diffusion, gene expression, meiosis. When you click on them, they're going to give you a bunch of sample questions with feedback, and they look a lot like exam questions. So that's a really great study guide. Going back to this, another thing that you can click on is this Pearson eText. This is your textbook, the Pearson eText, and it is amazing. So let me show you what it looks like. It will pull up the textbook, and you might be thinking, okay, this just looks like a normal textbook, but it's not. It's super cool. So as you're reading, let's say you get to this figure and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't really actually know what this figure is saying. I'm struggling with it. So what you can do is highlight it and you can post a question. So that's one thing you can do. You can post a question to the chat and anyone else reading can answer your question. So we can have interactive discussions about the book. You might also find that, oh, I really liked this sentence. You just do your normal highlighting and you have several different colors. So you can highlight for like things I'm unclear about, things that I think are going to be important for the test, things that are just interesting, whatever. When you highlight it, it puts it there, and then you can also post yourself a note. So you can say, oh, hey, this is really key. Remember this, whatever, right? And save. And then when you go to your notebook, it's going to have everything you talked about during the chapter that you thought was important. And it will show you what you highlighted in the different colors. So it's your way of like annotating your own notes from the textbook, which I think is just fabulous. And there's a lot of like videos in here that'll like explain to you what's going on in this picture. Any of these, if you click on them, it tells you the actual definition. Anytime you highlight, again, it's going to keep record of that, any notes you put on there. The other thing that's really cool about this book is if you click on audiobook, it will actually read it to you. So if you are at the gym or you are whatever, you can have the book read to you, which I think is fabulous. And so then you can look at the community posts, what other people have posted about the chapter. So you can go to, what are people saying about chapter 2? Well, nobody's put anything yet, so it's not there. But the other really cool thing about the book is that they have already generated flashcards for you. I'm not even kidding. It's super cool. So if you go to chapter 2, for instance, there are 78 flashcards that you can practice on, and you can see how well you're doing on the flashcards for the chapter. Okay, so again, super great resource for you. How do I want you to use the textbook? Well, I recommend that you read the textbook after class. I know that is kind of a new thing for a lot of people, and they're like, wait, what? That's not how I've done it. Because of the way this class is set up, being exploratory in nature, we want you to go to lab, just cold turkey, explore, and then come to lecture and get pieces put together and you're starting to get understanding, and then go home and read the relevant textbook chapter and fill in any holes or gaps that you maybe missed during it. That's how I would use this textbook, and if there's anything still muddy, you can point it out in the textbook and your fellow students can start answering them for you and you guys can have this interactive discussion. I think the textbook is just thebomb.com. So that's what we've given you for that. If we go back to here, the other place that's really interesting is the study area. So I've also opened that. This is the study area. And so you can go study by chapter. So if we're looking at chemistry or water, right? We can click on this, and here's the e-text, but it also has all kinds of interactive figures, animations, and a practice test that you can take and see how you do on the test, right? So these are really good study guides and study aids for you. I would encourage you to work together with people on this. I don't grade it. I don't require it. I will mention it in class when there is an actual like assignment that I've created, just as extra help. But I would encourage you to use it for every chapter. I would encourage you to read and highlight and annotate and all of that for your notes. All right, so that's the Mastering Biology. The library links, like I said, will be used elsewhere. I think that is everything I wanted to say. I am, again, so excited to have you in my class. I hope that I provided enough tools for you to succeed. It's going to be a great semester. I can't wait to meet you all. So I'm super excited. Thanks.